All right. So this is not the end of the new and improved change agent John McCain. He went on to say how angry he is at the greedy corporate interests on Wall Street. He's really angry at them. He is so angry that he wants to punish them by giving them $200 billion more in tax breaks. He's really going to shake things up. And, if you're not careful, he might even give them some more tax breaks for shipping jobs overseas. So, all right, so we're not finished. Senator McCain then bragged about how, as chairman of the Commerce Committee in the Senate, he had oversight of every part of the economy. Well, all I can say to Senator McCain is, nice job. Nice job. I mean, look, where is he getting these lines? The lobbyist running his campaign? Maybe it's Phil Graham. Phil Graham, the man who was one of the architects of deregulation in Washington that helped cause the mess on Wall Street in the first place, and who also happens to be the architect of McCain's economic plan and one of his chief advisors. Now, you will remember Phil Graham. He's the guy who said that we're just going through a mental recession and called the United States of America a nation of whiners. All right, we're not yet done. Then, I'm not making this up. Then you can't make this up. It's like a Saturday Night Live routine. So, then yesterday, Senator McCain's big solution to the crisis we're facing is, put on your seatbelts, a commission. A commission. That's Washington speak for we'll get back to you later. Let me tell you, folks, we don't need a commission to figure out what happened. We know what happened. Too many in Washington and on Wall Street weren't minding the store. CEOs got greedy. Lobbyists got their way. Politicians sat on their hands until it was too late. We don't need a commission to tell us how we got into this mess. We need a president who will lead us out of that mess, and that's why I'm running for president of the United States of America. John McCain can't talk enough about how greedy Wall Street is, but he's not offering a plan to solve it. How he's going to take on that old boys network in Washington. At this rate, by the end of the week, him and Phil Graham are going to be on a picket line somewhere, planning to storm the Treasury with torches and pitchforks. Come on. And the reason I make this point is not because I fault Senator McCain for all the problems we're facing right now, but I do fault him for the economic philosophy that he's followed for the last 26 years. It's George Bush's philosophy. It's Dick Cheney's philosophy. It's a philosophy that says that we should give more and more to those with the most and hope that prosperity trickles down. It's a philosophy that says even the most common sense regulations are unnecessary and unwise. We shouldn't meddle in the marketplace. It's a philosophy that lets Washington lobbyists shred consumer protections, to distort our economy so it works for the special interests, so that predatory loans can be given to folks unwittingly who might end up losing their home. Well, let's be clear, what we've seen in the last few days is nothing less than the final verdict on this philosophy. It is a philosophy that has failed. And I am running for president because the dreams of the American people cannot be endangered anymore. It's time to put an end to the broken system in Washington that is breaking the American economy. It's time for change that makes a difference in your lives. You know, John McCain and I have a different way of measuring the fundamentals of the economy. I know that the fundamentals that I use to measure economic strength are whether we're living up to that fundamental promise that has made this country great, that America is a place where you can make it if you try, that everyone should have the chance to live out their American dream. I know I wouldn't be standing here without that promise. I know that's the promise we have to keep once again. You know, when I talk to young veterans who've come back from Iraq or Afghanistan, I see my grandfather who signed up after Pearl Harbor. He marched in Patton's army. He was rewarded by a grateful nation with a chance to go to college on the GI Bill. I wouldn't be standing here if a nation had not given him a chance to go to college. In the face of that young student I meet who can't afford to go to college or is taking care of a sick family member who's sleeping 3 hours because they've got to work the night shift, I think about my mom who raised my sister and me while on her own, trying to work for her degree. She once had to go on food stamps, but was still able to send us to the best schools in the country. You know, when I listen to another worker tell me that his factory is shut down, I remember all those men and women on the south side of Chicago, black, white, Hispanic, who I fought alongside for 2 decades ago after the local steel plants had closed. And we set up job training programs, and we set up after-school programs, and we tried to rebuild a community that had been broken. Those people are my heroes. Those are the stories that shape me. It's on their behalf that I intend to win this election and keep the American promise alive. And understand, you know, one of the things you've got to always look at is what does an elected official do, not just on the day of a crisis, not just during election time, but what have they done in the past? You know, unlike Senator McCain, it didn't take a crisis on Wall Street for me to understand that folks are hurting out on Main Street. 2 years ago, I introduced legislation to stop mortgage fraud and transactions that promote risk and abuse. It was 1 year ago that I called on our Treasury Secretary and our Fed Chairman to bring every stakeholder together and find a solution to the subprime mortgage meltdown before it got worse so that people could stay in their homes. In March, when John McCain was saying, "I'm always for less regulation," I called for a new 21st century regulatory framework to restore accountability and transparency and trust in our financial markets. So I've got a track record. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. I didn't just show up yesterday and start calling for change. I've been talking about change for 2 years now. I didn't just read a poll and decide, oh, this is a change election. I believe that our free market has been the engine of America's great progress. It's a market that's created a prosperity that is an envy of the world. It's rewarded investors and risk takers and small business people who have made America a beacon of science and technology and entrepreneurship and discovery. But that American economy has worked because we've helped guide the market's invisible hand with a higher principle that America prospers when all Americans can prosper. That's why we've put in place rules of the road to make competition fair and open and honest. That's why we've got to make